Yes, Vicki.
9B, receive investment report and adopt resolution approving amendment to the city investment policy.
Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the Government Code previously required city councils to review annually their city's investment policy. While that is no longer the case coming from the Government Code, the City of San Bruno's investment policy does require an annual review by the City Council, and in those times when there are any changes to the investment policy for further review and approval by the City Council. The investment policy authorizes and requires conservative investments. It requires monthly investment reports to the City Council and requires investment decisions be consistent with what is termed the prudent investor standard. And essentially, that guideline spells out that the trustee, in which case is now the finance director, shall act with the care, skill, prudence, and diligence of a prudent person in safeguarding principal while maintaining liquidity needs. As of January 2018, the total amount of the city's investment portfolio is a little over $68 million. And page 2 of the staff report, for your information, shows shows the breakdown between the three main components of the portfolio: the local agency investment fund, which is a state investment fund, the San Mateo County pool, and then other United States and agency investments that are held on behalf of the city by our trustee, which is currently Union Bank. The returns on those three segments, the local agency investment fund through the state, the current return is 1.35%. The San Mateo County pool is 1.40%, and a weighted average of the individual investments that the city holds through Union Bank is 1.45%. The investment portfolio, the investment policy as included in your packet is redlined, showing proposed changes in the wording, and there's two primary aspects of the changes. The first is merely changing from the city treasurer, clearly indicating the duties throughout the investment policy are now assigned to the finance director, and that is based on the treasurer position being eliminated in December 2017 at the expiration of the then incumbent's term. The other change, slightly more substantive, since the Great Recession period of around 2008-2009, the investment policy included, in order to ensure diversification of the portfolio, of the overall portfolio, it set target for investments to split equally in those three segments to 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, which was essentially 33% for LAIF, 33% for the county pool, and 33% for city-held investments. And that's been unchanged since that time. In the last 10 years, those targets have remained. It would be staff's recommendation of, while the council is updating the policy, that there be some consideration to a slight modification of those targets, and that is really driven by the lagging performance of LAIF at this particular point. The county pool and our city-owned investment portfolio are both performing at higher levels than LAIF, and in talking to people, sort of the projection for the next year is that LAIF would continue to lag. So just to continue this one-third, not probably a material change, but I think while the council is reviewing it, it would make some sense to consider retargeting a little bit, lowering LAIF. And so there is a recommendation within the policy that the county pool and the city health securities be at 38% as a target rather than 33%, and that LAIF be lowered to 24% rather than 33%. And again, it would be our recommendation that next year when the council reviews this, if the investment environment is different, that be reordered again. And I would just point out that these are in the policy clearly spells out that these are targets. At any particular moment, we're probably not right at the target. It depends on when securities mature and when we get a large property tax payment into the county pool. At any particular moment, the portfolio might not exactly match the target, but the point is then that staff begin moving the portfolio to be in compliance with those targets. So those are that is the current investment portfolio and relatively minor changes to the policy, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council has.
Any questions of council? Michael?
Through the chair, thank you. Mr. Lear, can you clarify one point? And in the actual document, it specifies that funds connected with the settlement agreement with PG&E are not part of the policy. But in the table that's attached, it shows the breakdown. There is something that says Glenview Fire Local Agency investment. Is there? It seemed like those were related.
It is in fact invested in LAIF.
Okay.
And you can see by the portfolio it's actually broken out because there's two different percentages. But it is in fact in LAIF. I think the policy allows for something different as a possibility, but as a practical matter, it has, and to my knowledge, has always been invested in LAIF.
Okay. So maybe we could clear up that language in there so that it because it sounds like we shouldn't be including it in the policy, but it is covered by the policy. And maybe the distinction was what the foundation is managing versus what, and so maybe we should be clear that it's the foundation money that's not covered by the policy.
When the city was holding that was not invested in LAIF. So I think that is in fact the distinction, and if you'd like that cleared up, I think we can make that distinction in the policy.
City manager?
Yeah, we did hold those monies for a fairly significant period of time, so I'm guessing that that's just a holdover from that period of time. But we can research it and make any necessary corrections.
I think it would make sense to
I agree.
clarify that for future councils to consider. And since we're cleaning up the language in here from the treasurer to now the finance manager, I just wanted to ask if how the transition of those duties has been for you, and do you anticipate any other changes coming, anything else that we'll have to address in the future as part of that transition?
I would say the transition has gone well. I mean, I have had this responsibility in the past and elsewhere. I actually look forward to the opportunity to actually introduce the council. Some of you may have been in City Hall and met her, but the city's new financial services manager in the finance department that began in November has actually worked in the past for both the San Mateo County Investment Pool and the Contra Costa Investment Pool. So she brings a lot of knowledge to further my own. So I think the comfort level, and I think the transition is seamless. And just if it gives you any assurance, I didn't want to make this propose this change to the investment policy diversification targets without checking with the former treasurer. So I did contact him, and he endorsed
Wonderful.
this change, so I went forward.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Other questions from council? If not, it is an action item.
I'll introduce the resolution for approval.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Councilmember Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Medina.
Aye.